This is the 2016 EH&S training for escorted visitors for the Chokecherry and Sierra Madre Wind Energy Project. CCSM Project Overview. Once fully constructed, the project will include 1,000 wind turbines, producing 3,000 megawatts and 12 million megawatt hours per year of energy. It is sited in the nation's best wind resource area. There are 2 phases, each including 1,500 megawatts. Phase 1 is the western portion of Chokecherry and Sierra Madre. Phase 2 will be the eastern portions of those areas. This is a project overview map of the wind turbine development area. The wind turbine locations are shown as the black dots in the western portions of Chokecherry and Sierra Madre. You can also see the checkerboard land ownership. The yellow represents land managed by the BLM. The green is land owned by the Overland Trail Company. The blue sections are managed by the state of Wyoming. This is the CCSM Project Wind Resource Map. The areas shown in blue, red, and purple are the areas of highest wind speeds. Phase 1 Project Overview. Phase 1 will consist of 500 wind turbines and associated infrastructure, including haul road and facilities, water stations, laydown yard, river extraction, quarry, and the rail facility. Land ownership is a mixture of federal, state, and private land. The active cattle ranch is owned and operated by the Overland Trail Company. They own the private land within the project area. The BLM Rawlins Field Office manages the federal land leased by the Overland Trail Company, and the state of Wyoming manages the state lands. Use of the federal land for Phase 1 is authorized by the BLM under specific terms and conditions. State permit has been granted by the Wyoming Industrial Siting Council, and the conditional use permit has been granted by Carbon County. Ranch rules. Daily check-in, check-out is required. You must have appropriate field communication equipment, and vehicles must have window hangers displayed at all times. Please leave gates and fences as you found them unless otherwise instructed. All vehicles must have a fire extinguisher. No weapons, pets, or recreation is allowed on the ranch. Please follow provided guidance for interactions with livestock and wildlife. Contractors must stay in authorized work areas. And there's no camping allowed on private lands, and no long-term camping, which is camping greater than 14 days, is allowed on publicly accessible BLM lands. We will begin with the EH&S orientation overview, including safety and safety requirements, and then environmental training. Escorted visitor safety training. Site safety rules. These apply everywhere, on federal, state, and private lands. Please stay with your escort and follow instructions at all times. Once you complete the site-specific training, you will receive an orange hard hat that you will use at all times during your visit. We require anyone coming onto our site to sign in each day and record the location of where they will be visiting. Notify your escort if you have questions about personal protective equipment or PPE, if you don't understand a safety requirement, have a safety concern or safety recommendation. And the compliance team in yellow hard hats and the construction team in white hard hats are here to help and answer questions. Contraband not allowed on site. Alcohol or alcohol carrying containers, illegal Schedule I drugs and prescription drugs without a prescription in that person's name, dust off or compressed air cans for blowing off electronics, pocket knives with a blade length longer than 4 inches, and weapons will not be allowed on any of the sites. Vehicles on the project are subject to search for contraband by off-to-dol supervisors. Refusal to submit a search is the same as having contraband on site, and the person will be asked to leave and will not be permitted back on site. General PPE. People accessing or working on an off-to-dol work site, including subcontractors and visitors, shall wear standard issue PPE at all times. This includes an ANSI-approved hard hat, a Class II high visibility vest or jacket, ANSI-rated safety glasses, and safety-toed boots. Seatbelts will be worn by every person in equipment or vehicles while the vehicle is in motion. No one is permitted to ride where a seat and seatbelts are not provided, such as the back of a pickup truck. No parking in grassy areas with equipment or vehicles is allowed. Please stay at least 300 feet away from equipment unless escorted by an off-to-all supervisor. Animals. Please don't mess with the wildlife or livestock. And beware, rattlesnakes are on site. Don't step where your eyes have not been. Avoid tall, grassy areas and listen for warnings from snakes. Remember, no pets are allowed on site. The Emergency Action Plan, or EAP. In the unlikely event of an emergency, all site supervisors have a map with an EAP on the map. All work groups will have 2 forms of communication. Please follow instructions from your escort. Conclusion. Please stay with your escort. Listen to all instructions. Wear your PPE at all times. Avoid wildlife and watch out for heavy equipment movement. Escorted visitor environmental training. Site environmental rules. These apply everywhere, on federal, state, and private lands. Please stay with your escort and follow their instructions at all times. Do not litter. Use portable sanitation facilities and waste disposal containers. Photographs, video, and data collection are prohibited without prior authorization. Review the Environmental Compliance Guide and acknowledge that you understand it. Sign the certification of completion for the Environmental Awareness Program for escorted visitors. Site environmental rules. Notify your escort if you observe potential erosion issues. Identify a potential leak, spill, or discharge. Have concerns regarding hazardous materials. Observe excessive dust or have any other questions. The compliance team in yellow hard hats is here to help and answer questions. Wildlife and livestock. Leave wildlife and livestock alone. Follow speed limits and watch for wildlife while driving. Stay within designated construction disturbance areas and keep the work site clean. Please report wildlife encounters. This includes nests, dead or injured wildlife. And remember, no hunting, fishing, recreation, firearms, or pets are allowed on site. Cultural resources. There are cultural sites and resources in the CCSM project site. These include prehistoric, historic, and tribally sensitive resources. It is illegal to collect any cultural resources. Please notify your escort if you find any cultural resources. Paleontological resources. Collecting fossils is not permitted on the CCSM project site. Fossils include vertebrates, such as bones and teeth, invertebrates, such as snails, oysters, shells, etc., and plants. Please report any fossils to your escort. Escorted visitor review. Please review the Environmental Compliance Guide for additional detail. Identify any questions or areas requiring clarification. Sign the Compliance Training Acknowledgement Form for escorted visitors. Abide by all safety and compliance requirements during your visit, and please stay with your escort at all times.